Here's an update on what all has transpired since the news broke earlier today. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, has confirmed that 40 people have been killed and more than 20 have been injured in two attacks on two mosques in the city of Christchurch in New Zealand. Now, one of the men who've been detained, remember 3 men and 1 woman have been detained by New Zealand police in connection to this attack. Now, according to reports, one of those who's been detained is an Australian citizen. This was confirmed by the Australian Prime Minister. Now, more details are still to be heard from. The New Zealand police chief is expected to hold a statement for the media a little while from now. Now, New Zealand's Prime Minister has said that the incident can only be described as a terrorist attack. There are 20 people in critical condition. All mosques in the country have been asked to close their doors. Remember, today is Friday and the sermon was on at the mosques when the attack took place. Now, a number of people have, of course, reacted to the news of these attacks in New Zealand. Among them is the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He has said that this incident was an example of rising cases of racism around the world. Now, the police hasn't ruled out that there could be more offenders that are taken in to custody later in the day. As of now, 4 people have been detained. Of those, 1 is a woman and 3 are men. The police also recovered cars laden with explosives, with IEDs. Those have been dismantled. Those cars are safe now. But this is an evolving situation. I'm using the same words as the police chief did from New Zealand a short while ago. They have described this as an evolving situation. Schools in the vicinity of the mosques had been locked down. However, that has been lifted. The Bangladesh cricket team was also in the vicinity of the mosque. They were going there to offer prayers on Friday, but decided to move on when they heard the shooting. Joining me on the broadcast right now is Alex Perrotet. He's a New Zealand-based journalist joining us from Auckland. Alex, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. Our heartfelt condolences to New Zealand at this difficult time. If you can give us an update on what exactly is going on vis-a-vis this terrorist incident in Christchurch.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for coming to us, and good to join you and your program and your listeners there in India. It's a shock. It's, even for us working in the media today covering this, the nation is shocked because New Zealand has just never really had anything like this. We've had politicians, including the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, saying that it can be described as nothing other than a terrorist attack. That's, of course, because 40 people are dead, and there could be more because there's at least 48 people who are being treated for serious injuries in hospital. 20 of them are critical. And this, of course, happened earlier today with shootings at 2 different mosques in the city of Christchurch, obviously otherwise known to people from other parts of the world, perhaps from the big earthquake that happened there in 2011. People who suffered through that trauma now have something much bigger to survive from.
Right. Alex, can I ask you to tell us a little bit more about the city of Christchurch? I mean, how big is it? How many people live there? And is multiculturalism an integral part of the social makeup, so to speak, of the city?
Yes, well, it's actually in the South Island of New Zealand. So, New Zealand has the North and the South Island. It's the main city of the South Island. As I said before, put on the map really because of the 2011 earthquake where 170 people died there in February 22nd, 2011. It's known for its diversity, just like the rest of New Zealand. The Prime Minister today said that New Zealand was not chosen for this attack because we harbour people with those sorts of views, but we were chosen because of our diversity. New Zealand is a multicultural society. Perhaps that's seen a bit more in Auckland, where you have a lot of immigration from nearby Asian countries, most particularly the Pacific Islands as well. But Christchurch as well, while a smaller city than Auckland, is multicultural. However, there have been reports of far-right white supremacists in Auckland. Some people from Muslim groups say that they have been the recipient of hate mail in the past and from hate speech And we've seen it today, although we do know, and it has been confirmed, that at least one of the suspected gunmen who've been taken into custody is an Australian citizen. The Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, confirmed that just a few hours ago, and the man has it's been reported that he's admitted that as well. We don't know the backgrounds of the others. 4 people were taken into custody. 3 were arrested in relation to the incident. 1, it has since been reported by the Prime Minister, is not related to this incident. So 3 people of interest to police at the moment.
All right. Thanks for updating us on that number. There has, of course, been a lot circulating on the social media networks about the Australian suspect. These are unsubstantiated reports, so I'm not going to pursue them. But if I could ask you, the fact that one of the suspects is Australian, Alex, how exactly could this impact the investigation into the incident?
Well, the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has already spoken to Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and he says he's confirmed the nationality, and the Australian Federal Police, the authorities there, the intelligence officers are already working with the New Zealand intelligence officers and police. They are cooperating fully, and so there will be an investigation. They can't really give us much more information about that now. The main thing that we are looking for is just updates to see just how many people may have died. There'll be many in Christchurch Hospital that are being treated. There's hundreds of people being told waiting outside the hospital to hear about the fate of their loved ones. We've been hearing a lot from different Islamic groups who've been encouraging everyone in the country to, do what happens when there's Islamic terrorism, not judge everyone by the few violent ones. And so there's great messages of hope, of peace that are going out, and that's no surprise for New Zealand, which is a country of peace, a country that many people are attracted to visit. Many people saying that we hope that this incident does not put people off travelling to New Zealand as well.
Indeed. A last question, Alex. Access to guns in New Zealand, how easy, how difficult?
It's not that, I guess, if you want a comparison to Australia, their worst ever mass shooting was in 1996 in a small place in Tasmania called Port Arthur, where Martin Bryant killed 35 people. Following that, the Prime Minister at the time, John Howard, had a massive gun amnesty, which was very controversial, and banned all automatic and semi-automatic weapons, and that's credited for bringing their gun violence down. It's just that New Zealand has never had this problem before. So there's a lot of hunters in New Zealand, and a lot of them would be in the South Island, but there's no suggestion that anyone who is hunting deer or wild boar or those sorts of animals, as people like to do for a pastime in New Zealand, have any responsibility for this. These are clearly white supremacists. We can't go into too much about what has been shared online because of our ethical guidelines and our responsibility about not promoting their propaganda. But we do know that this was, as the Prime Minister said, a planned attack, and they have released a manifesto that's very, very racist, and this seems to be a calculated attack by people and it has to be investigated. We don't know how they got to have such violent weapons, such powerful automatic and semi-automatic weapons, so that will be the subject of the ongoing police investigation.
Alex Perrotet, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on what's going on in New Zealand. Again, our heartfelt condolences to the country, and appreciate you joining us on the broadcast.